Oh, yes. What's happening, everybody? It's your Uncle Weezy here. It is Tuesday night, 10 o'clock Central Time, doing what we always do about this time, breaking down this upcoming Saturday's card from nose to toes, going through all the fights, breaking down all the statistical sides of it, all the tape study angles, finding ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks, and then moving on to the next card, doing what we do every damn week. And what the hell is happening this week? You know, there's as a content creator, there is nothing that pisses me off more than a complete card reshake up on the day that I'm going to do my on the day that I'm going to do my full card breakdown. So the first thing that I wake up to this morning is Brady DMing me saying, "What the hell is going on here?" And it was the notification that the Ghemmouri Loughran fight was off, and then now Loughran is going to fight Lapilus, and that Ghemmouri is going to fight Gomis. And I was like, okay, well, I guess we'll find out whether that happens or not. And now it looks like Loughran has agreed to fight Lapilus, but if you go on UFC stats right now, there is still no official fight listed between Ghemmouri and Gomis. And that's probably because Ghemmouri's manager might have an IQ above 60. Why the hell would you let the UFC talk you into fighting a different opponent, a much better opponent, a much more experienced opponent, the week of the fight, when you already have a contract to fight somebody that you know is really on your level? Really, I mean, this is a very strange situation. It's not like the gourmet Chechen Hamza Kamayev came out here and did what he did, which was miss weight by like 11 pounds and then throw an entire card into oblivion. Where this one was just, we lost a couple of fights that, you know, I mean, Lucas Almeida pulled out of the Gomi fight, but they can't. There's nobody on the continent of Europe right now that's 145 pounds that's willing to fight William Gomi. There's nowhere on the nobody in the continent of Europe or Asia right now that wants to fight this guy Gomi. I don't get it. It's a very strange situation that they've replaced these fights and created some new ones, and it looks like one of them isn't even confirmed yet. But we do have betting lines on both fights. I'll talk about them because I researched their other opponents and I researched all the fights that were supposed to happen already. Now we've got some new ones. But yeah, thank you guys for hanging out with me. We're going to break down all these fights today. We're going to still try to figure out ways that we can make some money on this card, whether or not it's been blown up and completely changed from where it was like a week ago. But let's first start talking about last week. Last week, I'll share my screen with you guys here. And Bet MMA tips, I was down 0.5 units on this card. I had the Toshiomi Kazama money line at plus 142 for 1 unit. That was a horrible bet. Kazama is horrible. I can't believe how bad he is. I can't believe how stupid he fights. But yeah, it didn't even try to really take down Armfield. Just a really dumb performance there. Dumb bet by me. Cashed on the Naliang JJ Aldrich under 2.5 rounds at minus 105. We cashed on the Waldo Cortez Acosta, Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Finish only prop for the week, which was 2.1 units at minus 210 for 1 unit. And then we won the first leg of our parlay, which was the Cortez Acosta money line. The second leg of the parlay was the over 2.5 rounds for Holloway versus Zombie. And Zombie came out there in the third round saying, fuck your over, Weezy. I am going to swing from the fucking heels until Max Holloway knocks me out. And that only took about 10 seconds into the round for that to happen because of the way Zombie fought. So instead of being up 2.5 units here, we were down 0.5 units, a crushing way to not only, you know, take a loss on the week, but also we had the greasy 4-leg parlay, which was just cruising into the station here. And then we had Max Holloway's first finish in a 5-round fight. That he's had one fight out of 13 that were scheduled for 5 rounds finish under 2.5 rounds. And this is the second one that did. So wild stuff. Down 0.5 units on a little bit of a losing streak here, but really looking to turn things around. You know, if you don't have bad luck, you got no luck at all sometimes. And that's kind of like where I'm at here. But we're going to try to turn it around this week. That greasy four-legger should have hit, but at least the ass shaving of the week was a fantastic pick. And Waldo Cortez Acosta got the job done in the very first round. But we're going to move on to this week. We're going to talk about this week's fights, and let's see what's going on with you guys in the chat here. We've got the Jewish Better in the room saying notification on. What's happening, man? Always good to see you hanging out with us here. We got Silky B saying Gane versus Vampire. Hilarious, Weezy. And I'd like to thank my guy Eli for the thumbnail that he did for me on this. His kids are actually experts in Photoshop, so he actually asked them, "Hey, can you Photoshop Nosferatu's face on Sergey Spivac here for your Uncle Weezy so they could use it as a thumbnail?" They did it for me. So shout out my guy Eli. Shout out Eli's kids for helping me with this beautiful thumbnail that we have here to commemorate, you know, an actual vampire fighting in the UFC here against Cyril Gane. Very brave man in front of his home crowd to actually risk having his blood drank in front of the, 20,000 live fans potentially. Could be a very interesting night, but we will see how this one ends up. But I love how the thumbnail ended up. It is absolutely perfect. We got Chief Caolan in the room saying you should get all of Guru's subs for that thumbnail. Yeah, man, I think that's how it works. I think I get all of his subs now, and I'll just wait to see after today's show that I'll have 30 times as many subs as I had at the beginning of the show. So appreciate you, Chief Caolan. I'm glad you like it. We got Keep It Cool in the room saying, does the show kick off in 45 minutes? I'm only an expert in Pacific Standard Time. Okay, yeah, man, we are kicking off 45 minutes from when you said that. 36 minutes, actually, from when you said that. But always good to see you hanging out in here, brother. We got Bob Spikerman saying, let's go, and ready for Dana White Contender Series Paris Edition. You got that right, man. And Keep It Cool saying it's getting a bit hard to listen to Guru since he's taking the beanie off. About 50% of the time, he's reassuring himself he's tall and good looking. Kind of whack because I just can't bet 60% of this card seriously, and all the proper bettable fights are getting canceled. Yeah, it's been weird what's already happened to this card, and it's just kind of going down the road to nowhere here. We're going to see how it ends up on Friday and Saturday, but this week is rough for many reasons. Lots of unknown fighters, and then traveling is sure to affect many. Yeah, I mean, it's weird when you have to make at least like a 6-hour, 7-hour flight to get to where you're going. There were a lot of people dealing with that with Singapore last week, and now we got Paris this week. So we do have to be aware of how far a fighter is traveling in order to get to that fight. And we got M.A. Loughran in the room saying, "Oi, what's up, Punk? What do we do with this Frankenstein card? Specifically, now they've reshuffled matchups for Gomis and Loughran, and they are lockishness monsters now. Parlay with Basharat. Yeah, Basharat seems like a pretty good parlay piece. And then like Gomi against Ghemmouri. I don't think Gomi should be minus 240 against anybody. I don't think he's good enough to warrant that kind of a line. So I would not be parlaying Gomi because, it was Gomi whose fights have been shuffled around. And, it's weird, dude. It's just a really weird thing. It makes me not want to bet it. It makes me want to stay away from those fights. And I'm probably going to be doing that. Although I do kind of like Lapilus to win. Jester saying, Unk just won thumbnail of the year. Like I said, I got to thank my guy, Eli. I wish I could take full credit for this, but this is Eli's kids who did this for me. We got M.A. Loughran saying, hoping you can guide us to the flapjack stats. For now, I'm just confident in a couple of time props. Thanks for your work, as always, and hilarious thumbnail. I'm glad you like it, M.A. Loughran. The Cuban Assassin saying, Count Orlok, erroneously known as Nosferatu, can be defeated if a pure-hearted woman distracts the vampire with her beauty and then offers him her blood of her own free will You nominate Kim Winslow. I nominate Kim Winslow as well, but I would like maybe for that to happen after he drains the blood from Cyril Gane, because I got a bet on Sergey Spivac. Keep it cool saying, according to the Google widget, there are only 4 prelim fights right now. Oof. Yeah, and 5 on the main card. Yeah, well, but there are going to be 11 fights. They just haven't added these reshuffled fights on there. My guy Eli in the room saying, sure, all. What's up, Eli? We got Sneerius in the room saying, oi. And we got Dix Insider in the room saying, Prophet Weezy, did you just see Marcel's latest tweet? He responded to Roster Watch account that just tweeted Cavalcante just got cut. Is the fight a catch weight or off? It is catch weight. It is going to be a catch weight fight. There was no way that Zarah Fairn was going to sniff 135 pounds. And even though they're switching it to 140-pound catch weight, Zarah Fairn will probably miss weight by about 6 or 7 pounds. She'll probably weigh in around 147 for this fight. She has absolutely no chance of making 135, nor will she. So they've moved this to a catch weight fight now at 140, which makes a lot more sense. And then that way, you know, they can just fine Zarah Fairn like 30% of her purse when she inevitably misses weight and comes nowhere near to 140 pounds. And we got David Dennett in the room saying Team Zecchini for UFC Paris. Let's effing oi. We got Zero Miedo in the room saying, oi, what is happening, man? We got Garrett saying, what happened to Probability? Probability is being retooled, and it will be a pay-per-view show which will be watched by the people that support the template, which will have all of the new analytics, which is going to be looking something like this, you guys. This is what I call my prize picks template. So now Probability, which used to just be centered around fight time, you know, where we could look at the over-under props for every fight on the roster or on the card that week. What we're also going to be looking at is fantasy score props, which are available on Prize Picks and Underdog. We're going to be looking at takedown props, which are available on Prize Picks, Underdog, and Bet Online. And we're going to be taking a look at significant strike props, which are going to be available on Prize Picks, Underdog, and Bet Online. We'll have a bunch of expected values, benchmarks, fighter performance benchmarks, so that you can look at all of these new markets for prop bets that we see on websites like Prize Picks, like Underdog, like Bet Online, having some of these more specialized props that we can bet on. Probability will be a show, like I say, that will have access to all of the analytics that I keep, and it will be a show that will be a premium content program for people who want to exploit some of the massive holes I'm finding in some of these Prize Picks and Underdog lines as a result of the data that I have available to me. So if you want that data available to you, we'll keep an eye out for Probability. We will be sending out links for that once it's ready to go. And I finally think I might be able to do something this week with the template and some potential Prize Picks content. So that's what happened to it, Garrett. We got Caddy Daddy in the room saying Uncle Weezy with the house coat. He got a good ass shaving of the week, I can tell. I don't know if it's going to be as good as last week's, but I think it might be, though. I'm really confident in my pick this week as well. So let's figure it out, man. But we got a lot of work to do. My guy Lou Betcha in the room saying, oi, what up, boss? What's up, Lou? I hope you had a really good DWCS card this week, man. We got Kristen in the room saying hi, Weezy in chat. Bone chance this weekend. Let's have that good luck. Let's really make some money on this UFC Paris card. We got Justin J saying, oi, howdy, Uncle Weezy, and hello, chat. What's up, Jay? We got Sports Fanatic Gibbs saying, sup, Unc? Been a minute since I've caught the show live. Let's get the money. Let's go, man. We got Kristen saying, what an oversight. I forgot my oi. Thank you, Kristen. We got Remdog saying, what's good, Weezy in chat? Let's go. We got Brian saying, oi. And we got Bias Bets saying, oi's with the boys. What's up, Bias Bets? We got Keep It Cool saying, no, Weezy didn't read my deleted messages. I didn't want to bother you. Oh, deleted message. I don't know what your deleted messages were, but not worried about it, my man. We got Jeff K saying, hope you're feeling better. We got Daz Files saying, oi, hope you smashed the COVID. Let's go. Yeah, I did. I'm fine. COVID doesn't have a chance against your Uncle Weezy. My immune system stomped it out, kind of like Waldo Cortez Acosta did to Lucas Bresky last week, man. We got Cole Stein in the room saying, Weezy, let's get it. We got JJ77 saying, Weezy, how's it going? I was looking forward to Almeida fight. Sucks it's off. Me too, man. I was going to bet Almeida there. I had a bet on Gafarov at plus 172 to beat Lapilus. Yeah, I'm really pissed off about this whole shuffling. It's completely dumb, and it pretty much washed most of the research that I already did for this card. We got oh baby, just the tip, says my guy Chronic Combat Conversations. Make sure you guys throw a like on the video. I agree with that. Hit that like, hit that subscribe if you haven't already, and please consider joining the Patreon to get access to all these baller ass stats that you see right here on Just a Tip with your Uncle Weezy. The Jewish Better is saying, why is everybody saying, oi? Reminds me of Hebrew school, because you are in school, my man, and it is the school of statistics for MMA betting, and your professor, Uncle Weezy, greets you with a hearty, oi! So you know what's up, dude. Lou Betcha saying, we only ever said yo at the dyslexic Hebrew school I went to. Low T City Ortega saying, Weezy, prediction for potential matchup of Josh Parisian versus Chris Barnett. Several spinning fat kicks, several spinning fat fists, spinning fat to the point where one of them spins so fast that the fat gets going and it actually propels that one of them out of the cage, one of their fat asses. My guess would be Barnett, because that dude can spin, and that dude has got a lot of fat on him. So I could see it kind of spinning around like a Homer Simpson on a treadmill kind of look, right? Where it kind of hypnotizes you and it's moving, and then like that movement kind of hooks up with some unknown laws of physics that just propels him out of the cage. That's my prediction for that fight. That and hilarity are my two predictions for that fight, Low T City Ortega. And then we've got Eli saying LOL to Lou, and everybody out there is laughing because of Eli's beautiful Photoshop job on the Nosferatu pick for Spivac there. And ring a ding ding. My guy, keep it cool with the $10 donation saying, please, Lord, bless Weezy's pick this week and let the flapjacks be stacked. Amen. I appreciate you, my man. Thank you for helping out with the donation. Makes all the difference in the world here for your Uncle Weezy. Appreciate you, brother. And then Ben Katie saying in the room, Weezy, if Sergey Vlad the Impaler Spivac bites Gane, doesn't Gane also become a vampire? Yes. Yes, he does. So I don't think he's going to bite him, but he might drain the energy from him. Like that's something that that vampires do as well. They don't just suck blood. It could be energy that gets sucked as well. Kind of like it feels like a vampire has sucked all the energy out of this card. Coincidence? Probably not, man. Are there vampires in France? Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the oldest countries. You know, of course, there's going to be vampires there. There's castles there where vampires still live. Sergei Spivac is in a castle somewhere in Transylvania or Moldova, you know, probably 10 months out of the year. You know, he doesn't really need to train. He's always going to look like that. He'll look like that 300 years from now when we're all dead. He's going to be walking the futuristic lands of this earth, not worrying about death, you guys. So it's going to be an interesting fight, a very interesting fight. So let's get into it, you guys. Let's start breaking down all 11 of these fights. The very first fight that we're going to talk about is fight that we don't really have stats for because I haven't done them yet, but I can get something ready for the show here, you guys. Let me see. So if I were to take the Ghemmouri Loughran fight here, and then I were to take the stats for Lapilus, Did I? Yeah, there he is. So if I were to take Lapilus here, Control C, we go. All right. There's Lapilus versus Loughran, and I'll have to mess with the last 5 here as well. I'll just do it on the fly for these fights. Might as well. And there we go. There we go. All right. So Taylor Lapilus, and by the way, I don't even know how old Caolan Loughran is. I mean, I know it says that he's 47 years old. Believe me, he's not 47. Oh, we do have they finally got us a date of birth for Caolan Loughran. Congratulations, UFC stats. Only on 4 days before weigh-ins do we know how old this guy is. 5/18/96. Let's put that into the stats. 5/18/96. So he is about 27 years old. Somewhere around there. We'll just say 27. So Lapilus and Loughran are both listed at 5'6". We don't have a reach for Loughran. We don't have a stance for Loughran, but Loughran, from what I've seen, is a orthodox fighter. He's small, he's compact, he's bricked up with muscle, and he kind of walks forward and he'll throw big overhands that can kind of like help him get in on his opponent's hips, because he does try to wrestle. He does try to get fights to the ground, and he does excellent work once fights are on the ground. You can see he's 8-0 here in a 4-year career. He is the Cage Warriors bantamweight champion, and he's done really good work against some guys like Luke Shanks, Festus Ahorlu. Dylan Hazan is who he won the belt against. And yeah, what Caolan does really well is, like I say, he moves forward, he pressures on the feet, he does mix up his weapons really well. And he uses that big overhand right to try to land a big shot. And if not, he combines that with the pressure to kind of set up the entries on his takedowns. As far as Lapilus is very experienced. 21 professional fights, over 210 minutes in the pro cage, over 11 years as a professional fighter. He's been on that French regional scene forever, and he's even had a cup of coffee in the UFC, where he was 3 wins and 1 loss in his 4 fights. And he did even have a win by knockout. But we haven't seen Taylor Lapilus in the UFC since he beat I don't even have it in front of me here, but it was a long time ago. Lapilus beat Leandro Issa back in 2016. So it's been 7 years since he's been there. And if we look at what he's been up to since then, a loss against Denis Lavrentev was his only loss since he's left the UFC. And since then, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wins and 1 loss since he left the UFC. And he was 3-1 in the UFC. So the kid is good. He's a good kickboxer. He can mix up all areas of the game. He can mix in the wrestling. He can look for submissions. And he's got really good minute and moment winning potential in the kickboxing exchanges. And his brother was in the UFC as well. So the Lapilus brothers have been, part of the French mixed martial arts scene since its beginning, pretty much. So both of these guys, the Lapilus is very experienced, but Loughran is very new to the game here. Less than 4 years as a professional fighter. So this is a massive, massive, massive step up in competition for Caolan Loughran here, and it's on short notice. He was supposed to fight Ghemmouri. Ghemmouri, more of a kickboxer. So, I think that Lapilus is a little bit more well-rounded than his opponent Ghemmouri was supposed to be, and a lot more experienced. And, it's just a different fight for Caolan Loughran. So I don't know why he agreed to take this fight. I don't know why Ghemmouri agreed to take the Gomis fight, but My guess is that either what my guess is I was going to say that either they got a bunch of money to do it or the UFC bullied them into do it. But I'm guessing what happened was the UFC just bullied them into doing it so that they would make sure that they would have 12 fights or 11 fights, because they got to be worried about Zarah Fairn not showing up, or, showing up 10 pounds heavy. So yeah, maybe they were just really desperate and they just forced Loughran and Ghemmouri to take really dumb fights. So look, I got to go with Lapilus here. He's just too experienced. He's fought too much better competition. He's more well-rounded and more well-tested than Caolan Loughran is at this point. But Loughran, what he does do well is what we saw Denis Lavrentiev do to Lapilus, which is win with the wrestling. And we could see Caolan Loughran absolutely have a path to victory here. So I get why people are betting him at plus 140. It makes sense because there is a path to victory. He's younger. He's a lot more hungry at this point in his career, I would say, than Taylor Lapilus is, who's been around a lot longer. But yeah, debut against the guy who's making his return after 6 years. Interesting fight. But I am going to go with Taylor Lapilus to win this one by decision. So let me see if I can make a pick here. Yeah, there we go. So like I say, we don't. Oh yeah, they do have Gomis versus Ghemmouri listed as well. So yeah, I'll be going Taylor Lapilus by decision with absolutely no confidence, you guys. You just have to know this fight was just made today after I had already written up and completely prepared for the show. So I had to go back, blow up the fight that I was talking about, which was going to be Loughran versus Ghemmouri, and then now research 2 different fights, which I'm not going to do at this point. So this is, I feel bad for Caolan Loughran. It's a bummer that the UFC bullied him into this shit, because it makes no sense for him to take a much tougher fight against Taylor Lapilus in his debut, but he's doing it, and hopefully he got compensated for it. And then the next fight I want to talk about is Ghemmouri versus Gomis. So let me just kind of mess with the sheet here. So I got Gomis Almeida and Ghemmouri Loughran. So Ghemmouri. Oh, shit. Yeah, now I don't have Ghemmouri's stats. So let me see here. Okay. It's all right. Ghemmouri. That's good enough. All right. So we got Ghemmouri against Gomis here. Ghemmouri, we don't have any measurements on either, because he's a debutant. We have no stats on him. And then Gomis is a tall dude. He grapples a lot. He's got pretty decent stand-up. He's got a Sanda background. And we know that he's, 12-2. One of his losses came to Morgan Charriere versus leg lock, by leg lock. And I think he's also lost to Saladin Parnasse. Gomis is solid but low output. As we can see here, only 8.2 distance strike attempts per minute spent at distance. That's 3.81 less than the divisional average. He does have a nice positive 1.52 distance striking differential, which means that when the fight is at distance, he's winning the minutes. But Ghemmouri is going to be a lot more active than the guys that he's fought in the past. Ghemmouri's a very good kickboxer. He trains with Farid Ziam over at the MMA Factory, I believe. And I've seen Farid be in his corner before. So Ghemmouri's kind of well-rounded. I've seen him in fights where he was getting outboxed on the feet, actually turned to the wrestling to win minutes late in the fight. But he does kind of do his best work at distance striking range. He stays behind a nice jab. He doubles it up a lot, uses that jab to set up all the other attacks. Good low leg kicks. Pretty decent pacing, not nothing phenomenal in terms of the amounts of output that he throws out there, but this is a lot tougher fight than what he had against Loughran, because he was going to be taller and longer than Loughran, but now he's going to be shorter and definitely a lot more at a grappling disadvantage here to Gomis, who we've seen kind of go out there and try to take his opponents back standing, kind of like stay really tight to his opponent so that he can stay defensively sound. We can see that William Gomis is only absorbing 1.17 significant strikes per minute with 81% defense, 84% distance striking defense. So, Gomis is just really hard to find out there. And he's either all the way out or all the way in. And he does a good job of being unavailable for his opponent to hit through that distance management, which he, like I say, he's either all the way in there in the clinch or he's way out at distance striking range where he can hit his opponent because he's 6 foot with a 73-inch reach, while Ghemmouri is only 5'9" with probably not that much of a reach and more of an orthodox fighter as Ghemmouri. So he will switch stances though sometimes. So I kind of feel like Gomis can stay safe at range here, and that he can also kind of win some minutes trying to get to the opponent's back standing or trying to get a takedown and some control time in each round, like we saw him do in his debut against Jarno Aarons, where he got a takedown in all 3 rounds and like at least 2 minutes of control time in each round. So there's a lot of different options open here for Gomis, and I think he's going to win this fight as well by decision. So I'm going to do that on the Tapology page here. William Gomis, Jaguar, to win this one by decision. So those are the Frankenstein fights, which were just made today. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We've got Justin Villegas in the room. I just want to say on Contenders, I'm not going to read the Contender Series stuff because I have not watched the fights yet. I don't want any spoilers. We got Justin Villegas saying, if the love in the MMA internet community for Spivac keeps going by Friday, Gane going to be a plus 400. Sounds like Spivac a lock and Gane is done. Go to PFL, you bum. Lapilus going to beat the crapulous out of Loughran. Yeah, dude, that's the thing. I mean, like, why did Loughran take this fight? Why? He hit Loughran's manager and Ghemmouri's manager should have had the same 2 words for Dana White. Fuck you. I've got an opponent. We don't find somebody else to fucking fight Taylor Lapilus. Find somebody. And then Ghemmouri, and now he's going to go from 135 up to 145 to fight a much bigger guy. He's getting completely fucked here. These guys have got spineless managers who are not looking out for their fighters' best interests. I can tell you that right now. And Jewish Better, $5 with the donation saying big Jew energy for the weekend. Let's get that money, because if there's one thing that the Jew energy will bring us, it's money. Come on. They're good with money, people. So let's go. Jewish Better, totally appreciate the donation, my man. Let's get that money this weekend. And it's saying it would only let me donate a penny. Oh, I appreciate you, brother. It means so much, man. And Go Flamingo saying, what's up, Weez Dog? Glad I made it live. Good to have you here, brother. Thank you for hanging out with us. And Justin saying, no, you didn't, dude. You didn't do it. I'm going to watch it later on anyway, after the show is over tonight. But let's talk about the next fight, which is going to be Zarah Fairn, who's going to miss weight by a ton at plus 300 versus Jacqueline Cavalcante at minus 365. The fight doesn't go to decision, and minus 140 for this fight. So let's get the stats up here on the screen. And that is not it, but this is it. Or I thought it was. There we go. All right. So, First, let's start talking about, oh wow, where are my notes? All right, yeah, Zarah Fairn in this fight. Zarah is going to have the experience advantage in this fight with 5 more fights, almost 20 more minutes in the pro cage, and over 5 more years as a professional. Zarah also has the high level experience advantage with 3 more UFC fights and over 22 more minutes in the octagon than Jackie does. And Zarah was a huge featherweight, but now she's fighting at 135. This fight most likely doesn't happen because Zarah couldn't even make 145. Now, I wrote this when this was still listed. They actually made this fight at bantamweight, which is hilarious because, I mean, like, Fairn can barely get on a scale below 150 pounds. So when Brady and I saw that this fight was listed not at a catchweight, but at bantamweight, we were like, okay, there's no reason to even research this fight because there's no fucking way Zarah Fairn is getting on a scale and getting on it and weighing in at anything below 147. So now they've seen what, you know, they already probably got a call from Fairn's camp saying like, we're 173 right now, we're probably not going to make 136, you know, so they're moved up to 140. She's going to get a fat fine, but I think that this is the last fight on her contract, and you know, they're going to let her fight in front of her home fans before they cut her. The last time Fairn fought at bantamweight was against Suvi Samimis 6 years ago. So even if Zarah does make weight, I think she'll be bigger than Jackie, even though Fairn is listed as 1 inch shorter than her. And Zarah is known for her striking. She's 4 wins and 1 loss to the knockout in her pro career, and she does a decent job of using her length to maintain distance. But frankly, she could do a lot better using that advantage. Zarah has solid metrics at distance striking range, despite the fact she's 0 wins and 3 losses in the UFC. She's got a positive 2.1 distance striking differential with 45% accuracy. She's attempting 18.83 distance strike attempts per minute, so she stays busy and she throws mostly in combination. Now, for Cavalcante, she's 14 years younger than Zarah Fairn is. I just saw Jackie go 5 rounds in her last fight versus Melissa Croden on the regional scene. Zarah definitely slows down after the first, and I've seen Jackie show 5-round cardio and pace in 2023. So it's clear that Cavalcante is going to have the conditioning advantage here. And Jackie also does her best work at distance striking range. She's tall, rangy. She switches stances effortlessly. She mixes her weapons up, so it's hard to get a read on her, and she definitely lands with power as she's 3 wins and no losses to the knockout in her career, as well as having a handful of knockouts on the regional scene to add to those knockouts. So, or add to those knockdowns. When you watch the first round of the Croden fight, there's a sequence where Jackie drops her 3 or 4 times in a 15-second stretch. So not only is Jackie tall and rangy and able to switch stances and mix up her weapons, but she also flashes power, excellent footwork, range management, and volume. So I'd say that she's going to have the striking advantage here over Zarah Fairn. And Jackie does have the ability to win minutes with her grappling, which is something we don't see from Fairn, who hasn't even attempted a takedown in 3 UFC fights. So, I mean, I see why the line is where it is for this fight. I'm not going to get involved at this price, but I'm going to pick Cavalcante to get the win here. 15 years younger, the better technical striker, the better grappler, better conditioning, her natural weight class, more power, and the size to match Fairn. So I see Jackie finishing via knockout in the second round in this fight. So let's get that one. Zarah Fairn, infinite. What are the possibilities that Zarah Fairn misses weight? They're infinite, my friends. And Cavalcante is going to win by knockout in round number 2 is the prediction for this one. All right. Let's see here. Let's go to this next fight, which is going to be Farid Basharat at minus 335 going up against Kleydson Rodrigues at plus 275. The fight doesn't go to decision right now. Plus money for this one, plus 130. So let's get the Basharat Rodrigues stats up here. And this is one of the fights where we actually have stats for both fighters. It's a miracle. Okay, so let me get back to this fight now. Let's first start talking about Farid Basharat. He's got the measurables advantage here as Kleydson has been forced to move from flyweight to bantamweight due to several botched weight cuts. Farid is almost 2 years younger. He's 2 inches taller, and he's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage over Kleydson here. And Farid has the experience advantage over Kleydson as well, with almost 25 more minutes of cage time in 3 years less as a pro fighter. So not only is Farid more experienced, but he's been a much busier fighter as he's been fighting twice a year compared to about 1.25 times a year for Kleydson. Farid is the smoother, more technical striker in this matchup. Kleydson gets a little wild while Farid switches stances, throws attacks right down the middle. He's very accurate and defensively responsible at the same time as Basharat. And he's done a good job of mixing in the wrestling and grappling to win minutes. He's got excellent fight IQ. He knows when to use what weapons. In the Bagoso fight on Dana White's Contender Series, we saw Farid get takedowns and at least 2 minutes of control time in each round. Versus a stud grappler in Damon Blackshear in his UFC debut, we saw Farid take Damon down 3 times to 1 and outcontrol him 36% to 18% in that fight, winning almost 68% of the control time positions in that fight while outlanding him 42 to 36 at distance. And if you look here, Basharat threw 79 significant strike attempts and his opponent Blackshear threw 106. But Basharat's so accurate and so defensively responsible that even though his opponent out-attempted him by 27 attempts, it was still Farid who outlanded him at distance 42 to 36. So Farid just is good. He's a good minute winner. He can kind of use that stance switching to confuse you, to make him harder to find, and to keep him like a step ahead of his opponent in terms of what attacks that he's going to be dishing out while he's switching stances. So he's just doing a really good job of winning the minutes on the feet right now. And he's also 4-0 in his decisions in his career. So it's clear this kid has several ways to win minutes that depend on where he finds the weaknesses of his opponents. Now for Kleydson Rodrigues, he's a very busy striker. He's attempting 17.23 distance strikes per minute, and he's landing 9.39 of them. He's accurate, but defensively irresponsible with only a 52% distance striking defense. But Kleydson does have the ability to drown his opponents in volume and land big, powerful shots. But in summary, it's hard to find ways for Kleydson to win this fight. He's done nothing but crush cans and botch weight cuts so far in the UFC and on Dana White's Contender Series. And now he's moving up a weight class to fight a guy with a well-rounded skill set and a great fight IQ. It remains to be seen how Kleydson will respond when he's no longer a size bully at flyweight, and Farid has serious measurables advantages over Kleydson. I think Farid not only wins this fight, but I think he finishes Kleydson here. Rodrigues' get up game against Vergara looked awful, so I doubt Farid has any problems getting this fight to the ground and either finishing with ground and pound or a submission. I'd pick Farid Basharat to win by second round submission here. So let's go over here. And I'm going with Farid to finish Kleydson here in the second round by submission. Like I say, when Kleydson got dropped by CJ Vergara about 20 seconds into the second round of their fight, he spent almost the entire rest of the round on his back, getting his face pounded through the canvas. No get-up game, willing to play jiu-jitsu off his back. And I mean, that's fine when you're the bigger guy sometimes because you can dominate your opponent's size. You can get, submission attempts that you wouldn't get against guys up a weight class. But, now Kleidson's a bantamweight now. He's missed weight too many times at flyweight. They won't let him be a size bully down there anymore. So now he's going to have to find ways to not be the bully, but be able to find ways to win minutes. And that's a bad guy to be told that you need to now win minutes against, because Farid Basharat is very good at winning minutes. And I think that he will do such a good job of winning the minutes that a moment will open itself up where he can finish this fight, probably in the second round. All right. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We've got easy picks and bets in the room saying, "What's up, Uncle Weezy? Fly high, Pogo." I hope that you are doing all right, brother. Let me know if there's anything I can do. Hit me up in the DMs. So sorry to hear about your dog, but I hope that Bootsy was there to escort him along that rainbow bridge over to the other side to where he could be with all of his loved ones and his family. I appreciate you, man, and we'll talk to you soon. Justin Viega saying, "Does Basharat like to mimic old Conor McGregor style featherweight Conor?" Yeah, I mean, like I don't think he has like quite like that karate style when he strikes, but you know, the way that he switches stances and throws those shots right down the middle, man, it's fun to watch, man. And let's see. Okay, so let's go. I don't want to talk about any Dana White's Contender Series here, so let's move on to the next fight, which is going to be Nora Cornhole at -112 going up against Joselyne Edwards at -108. Fight doesn't go to decision. Plus money here at +105. So let's get the stats up here for these two. So let's first start talking about Nora Cornhole here. She's got a 100% finish rate. When she gets to dominant positions on the mat, she absolutely mauls her opponents and finishes with ground and pounder submissions. And she does excellent work in the clinch, does Cornhole. She's a bully there. She loves the dirty box and then use her clinch, trips, sweeps, and reaps to get fights to the ground where she really does her best work. Once there, she looks to get to her opponent's back and then pound them out or submit them. And that's pretty much what you see from her in the Chukwu fight, in the Abash fight, in the Priscilla de Sosa fight, in the Sanam Mandar fight. You see Cornhole bullying her opponents in the clinch. Eventually, that fight goes to the ground one way or another, and then she just wears on her opponent. The one fight that we don't see here is Nora fought Jacqueline Cavalcante on the regional scene, and they updated that footage on the tape index, so I was able to watch that fight. Nora's good, man. I mean, like in the Cavalcante fight, Cavalcante had her out, had her in trouble a couple of different times. Once in the first round, once in the third round. But what Nora showed is that she can face some adversity in her fights and then find her way back into the fight. And that's not something that you see very often on the regional scene, especially for somebody like Cornhole, who's 6-1 here, you know, and she's finished all 6 of her wins. You know, a lot of times what you see is, oh yeah, the fight's going well from the get-go because they're not fighting great fighters, and then they can do what they're supposed to do. But what we don't know with a lot of these fighters is, hey, what happens if they get blasted in the face? What happens if they get caught? What happens if they walk onto something early in the fight? You know, are they going to be able to find their way back into the fight? Do they have the kind of durability necessary to be able to cover up for any mistakes that they might make at this level? And with Cornhole, I saw that in the Cavalcante fight. She got blasted a couple of times, and she had some moments where she had Cavalcante in trouble as well. So it was a good back and forth fight, went the full 3 rounds. Both ladies showed good conditioning and good heart. Cornhole lost that fight to Cavalcante. I thought she was probably the rightful winner, Cavalcante, but it was a really good look for her, because if you weren't to see that fight and you were just to see her fight Loizo, Chukwu, Abash, De Sosa, and Mandar, you would see one-sided ass whoopings. And then you'd wonder what happens if she does get caught. So, but what Cornhole really does do best is not at distance striking range. It's not like she's bad there or deficient there. She's just serviceable there. But she's a bully, and she does her best work in the clinch and on the ground. And coincidentally, that's where Joselyne Edwards does her worst work. Joselyne Edwards has 2 UFC takedowns, and she's allowed 13 of them. She has a little bit less than 7% control time for, way below average, and she allows almost 40% control time to her opponents. She's winning less than 15% of the control time positions that her fights have been in, and she's only giving up 2.17 takedowns per 15 minutes. So every time she gets taken down, it takes her 3 or 4 minutes to get back to her feet, if she does at all. So Joselyne Edwards has a massive hole in her game, and that hole is exploitable by Cornhole. Cornhole is going to find the hole in Joselyne Edwards' game, ladies and gentlemen. But Joselyne is over 6 years younger and 1 inch taller than Nora Cornhole. She's going to have the overall and the UFC experience advantages over Nora. She has 10 more pro fights, 120 more minutes in the cage, and almost 6 more years as a professional mixed martial artist. Edwards also has 6 more UFC fights and 90 more minutes in the octagon compared to Nora, who's going to be making her debut. And Joselyne is a big bantamweight with solid UFC striking metrics. She's got a positive 3.98, as you can see right there. Distance strike differential with over 50% accuracy and about 57% striking defense. She stays very busy, throwing 17 distance strike attempts per minute. So while this fight is at distance, Joselyne is going to be taller, longer, busier, more accurate, and more likely the superior minute and potentially even moment winner. And Joselyne has obviously faced a much better brand of competition at the UFC level. She has 6 UFC fights compared to 0 for Cornhole, and she's faced the much higher level of competition in her career. Nora has only crushed cans on the regional scene, so Edwards is going to be a massive step up in competition for her. Once again, this fight is pretty simple to cap. If it stays standing, Edwards probably looks minus 250. If Cornhole gets takedowns, she probably looks minus 300 here. There are a lot of reasons to like the Edwards side. She's younger than Cornhole. Look at Cornhole's 34 years old here, making her debut at bantamweight. So that's a bit of a red flag. She's only been a professional mixed martial artist for 2 years. So she got a very late start to the sport here, while we see somebody like Joselyne Edwards, who made her pro debut at the age of 19. Nora Cornhole made her pro debut at the age of 32. So, we've got a difference in terms of how long these ladies have been fighting and what point in their careers they started MMA. So Edwards is going to be a pretty massive step up in competition here for Nora Cornhole, based on like Hasna Gabor, who blew out her own knee, just not even getting hit. Sanaa Mandar, not good. Priscilla De Sosa was like a short, fat girl whose tits kept popping out of her fucking outfit. There were like 3 wardrobe malfunctions in that fight. She didn't belong. Cornhole stomped Priscilla De Sosa, man. It was nasty what she did to her. She stomped Asma Alba. She stomped Juliet Chukwu. She stomped Maria Loizo. So she's been shaving people's asses out there. But there are a lot of reasons to like that Edwards side, because, she's younger, taller, longer, more experienced, the better striker. She's fought the much better level of competition. However, there's that massive hole in her ground game that is way too easy to exploit. And we see Cornhole doing all the things that she needs to do to exploit that hole on her regional scene tape, even though it's against a much lower level of competition. Stylistically, I think Nora is exactly the kind of opponent that Joselyne has the most problems with. So I'm going to have to pick Nora Cornhole to win this fight by decision, by getting takedowns from the clinch, piling up points with control time and ground and pound, and winning by decision here. So let's go back to Tapology. We've got Nora Cornhole here. I'm going to have her winning by decision over Joselyne Edwards. I feel like Nora's going to have to sell out for that wrestling, though. And, if you bet Nora Cornhole here and then she doesn't go to the wrestling, you're probably going to be throwing your remote through the television while Joselyne Edwards cruises to a decision victory by picking her apart from the outside. So Cornhole to win by decision or any other way is probably going to have to get the grappling game going. And I think it should be easier for her to do it because the opponent that she has in this case is going to leave that open for her. So Nora Cornhole to win this one by decision. All right, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We've got Zupik Music saying, I got this fight for a fight that makes me go to sleep early and miss the main event at plus 500. I think this one might be a fairly exciting fight, actually, Zupik. Nora, when you watch the tape on Nora, she's fun, man. She's in good fights. She's a bully. She's a scrapper. She hits hard. She's mean. And Joselyne Edwards really looks great at distance. And then you got that ass that you always get to see in any Joselyne Edwards fight. She may not win, she may not lose, but she will bring some ass for the ass people out there. So Joselyne's going to bring that ass. That'll be fun to watch. Nora Cornhole's got a fun style to watch. So I think that this will be a decent fight. That'll be high energy, high output, and maybe even a little bit back and forth. So I think it'll be a good one. We got Michael Croak in the room saying, what's up, Weezy? What's up, Croak? Good to see you hanging out in here, man. And we've got Justin saying, sounds like an ass shaving of the week. Can you ass shave someone to a decision or ash shave automatically? It has to be less than 2 rounds. I have picked ass shavings that I said were going to end by decision before, but I always do try to make the ass shaving of the week a fight that's going to finish violently. Yeah, and my guy Zupik, like his uncle Weezy, says he does love me some MMA ass. And I mean, hey, we're only red-blooded Americans or whatever, wherever it is you're from. Red-blooded, we like ass. We talk about it here on Just a Tip with Uncle Weezy, man. We find all the angles. Keep It Cool saying, have you considered flipping a coin for every WMMA fight and tracking the results? No, I haven't. You used to have Bootsy here, to like kind of bark when he thought the underdogs were going to take care of business, and we would kind of like keep track on how Bootsy did. But yeah, I'm not going to be flipping coins for these fights. Still going to try to trust my stylistic reads, but I'm going with Cornhole here, but not with a ton of confidence. And this thing is, lined close for a reason because both fighters definitely have paths to victory from what we can see from their skill sets on tape. And Jewish Better said, I'd palm Edwards' red afro from the back all day. Oh, yeah, I mean, I think that makes 2 of us Jewish Better. She brings it in the cage, and it's there, man. It's there, so we can enjoy it. It's up to us to enjoy it now. Edwards by booty clap. I like it, Silky B. Let's go, man. All right, let's find this next fight that we're going to be talking about. And this one is one of my picks definitely for fight of the night. Ange Loosa at minus 170 going up against Skeletor. Rhys McKee at plus 145. Fight doesn't go to decision. Minus 110 for this fight. Let's bring up the stats and let's first start talking about Ange Loosa here. So his advantages is that one, Ange is incredibly durable, you guys. You need a gun and a lot of bullets and really good aim to get this guy out of there. He won't give up on himself, and you need a foreign object to get even close to finishing him. Finish only for Loosa could be a great look due to his durability. Ange also has good cardio. Dude ends up in a lot of wars, but he always finishes strong like he did in the Fletcher and the Madalena fights. The Fletcher fight was in Salt Lake at altitude, and Loosa almost died in the second, but came back strong in the third and easily won that round by throwing more volume and getting a takedown in almost 4 minutes of control time against a gassed AJ Fletcher in the third round there. And Ange should be the better wrestler and minute winner in the grappling exchanges. If there's one hole in Rhys McKee's game, it's that he can be taken down and controlled while he's there. Rhys has 20% takedown defense in the UFC, and he's allowed over 30% control time to his opponents. So Ange will be smart to wrestle here to clearly win minutes against a guy like McKee, who is solid on the feet. Loosa also shows savage ground and pound on his regional scene footage. So there could not only be minute, but also moment winning potential if Ange proactively wrestles against McKee here. Now, Rhys McKee is a very big welterweight. He's 2.5 years younger than Ange Loosa, 4 inches taller, and he's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage in this spot. Rhys is a finisher. He has a 100% finish rate in 13 pro wins. He's got 3 submissions and 10 knockouts. Rhys is durable. He pressures. He throws lots of volume. He stays in the face of his opponents, and when he wins, he usually breaks his opponents with that pressure and volume late in the fight. And Rhys has solid striking. His punches come straight. They have plenty of sting on them. He throws a ton of volume because he's always putting numbers together. He's attempting 17.74 distance strikes per minute, landing at over 53%. Rhys trusts his solid chin, maybe a little bit too much, as he only has a 48.4% distance striking defense. But it's that hard-nosed pressure and volume style that winds up thriving in wars, and that's what Rhys brings. And Ange is going to be a great stylistic opponent that should guarantee an all-action war in this fight. And Rhys has fought the better level of UFC competition in a very small sample size here compared to Ange Loosa, where Loosa's fighting Munir Lazzez and AJ Fletcher. Rhys McKee is fighting Khamzat Chimaev and Alex Morono. So at the UFC level, at least, these guys have fought. It's been McKee who's fought the tougher guys. But on the regional scene, the level of competition is fairly similar. Now, I love this fight, you guys. Both these guys bring a high pace, all action style that usually results in back and forth wars. So this could be definitely a sleeper for fight of the night. I love Loosa's combination of power and volume on the feet, the durability that he brings, and the advantage he could have in this fight should he choose to go to the wrestling. On the McKee side, I love the size, the length, the youth advantages that he has, the conditioning that he always brings that fuels that pressure, pace, and output heavy style that never stops throwing those straight down the pipe combinations, along with the weapons like step-in knees and elbows that McKee's length makes a unique option for him. In my opinion, these guys are very well matched, so people shouldn't underestimate the 27-year-old Rhys McKee, who definitely showed improvements in his most recent 3 fights in Cage Warriors, where he won the lightweight championship versus Dana White Contender Series alum Justin Burlinson, and then he defended it against KG veteran Judo Jim Wallhead, who's got over 40 professional fights. Both fights scheduled for 5 rounds, and against Wallhead, we saw McKee bring a furious pace into the 3rd round. If I felt that Loosa was a shoe-in to mix in the wrestling in all 3 rounds of this fight to not only win minutes on the ground, but also interrupt the constant pressure and output that McKee brings, then I feel as if the current price tag might be warranted on Loosa. That being said, there isn't a ton of evidence that Loosa does wrestle enough in this spot. And if he does wrestle and do so unsuccessfully, then I could see Rhys really putting it on him late. I like the plus money on Rhys here. I know Rhys has a 100% finish rate, and Ange is almost impossible to finish, but I think Rhys is live to win a decision here with his pressure, pace, and volume, as long as he can stop any potential takedown attempts. So I'm going to pick Rhys McKee to be the winner of this fight by decision. And I think Rhys McKee by decision on Bet Online Sportsbook, it's got a pretty good number on it. Rhys McKee by points plus 350. It's a pretty good number, fat number. I'm thinking about putting a half unit on that because, like I say, Ange Loosa is very hittable. And I think Rhys is going to stay in his face. I think Rhys is very durable in his own right. And because there's not a lot of evidence on the tape that we see from Ange Loosa to suggest, oh, yeah, Ange is going to go out there and wrestle. See, if Ange was a wrestler, he would have wrestled against Munir Lazzez, who was absolutely picking him apart at distance. And I'm not saying that Rhys picks apart Ange Loosa like like Lazez does, because Lazez is a way more talented and technically sound kickboxer. But the fact that Ange Loosa didn't, wrestle against Lazez is definitely very worrisome, because if he just stays on the feet and trades in the pocket with Rhys McKee, there's no guarantee he's going to win this fight. Rhys is real good in the pocket, and I think that this kid's striking is severely underrated. It's just that he hasn't shown good takedown defense. So, that avenue is always open to his opponent. So we're going to have to see how much Ange Loosa commits to the wrestling here. And since we don't have a lot of evidence to suggest that he will, that's why I'm picking Rhys McKee in this spot. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. Jewish Better maybe giving us a little bit too much information here, but guess what? That's all of us, brother. I mean, if it wasn't smelly, I don't know. It's probably just going to be that most of the time, isn't it? And then Justin saying her thighs are too big, plus the hair looks like Kevin Randall out there. Yikes. On Rhys, it says Daz Files. I'm with you there, Daz Files, man. I like Rhys McKee in this spot for sure. All right, you guys, let's go on to the next fight, which is going to be the last pirate, Morgan Charriere, going up against the Venetian Angel, Manolo Zecchini. Italy stand up. So we got Charriere, the big favorite here at minus 330. Zecchini, the underdog, plus 270. The fight doesn't go to decision for this fight at minus 150. So let's get the stats up here. Where on what stats? There are no stats. These guys are both making their debut. But let me first start talking here about the last pirate, Morgan Charriere. He's got the overall experience advantage in this spot. Hang on, let me get a little bit of water. Morgan has 14 more fights and almost 240 more minutes in the pro cage, about 4 hours in 6 months and in 6 less months as a pro. So not only is Morgan more experienced, but he's also been the far busier fighter in comparison to Zecchini here. Morgan is a very durable fighter. He's only been finished once in 9 career losses and 28 pro fights. Morgan has never been knocked out, and he was submitted once. Morgan is compact, and he throws with power on the feet. He's 10 wins and no losses to the knockout in his career. So obviously he's down to swing and bang, and he's able to trust his chin when he engages in pockets, in the pocket exchanges. Morgan throws heavy low leg kicks, and he tries to time his overhand right as his biggest weapon. Everything he throws comes at you with power, and he's an explosive enough athlete to make that style work. Morgan does great work getting fights to the ground and then landing ground and pound while the fights are there. He's got a tricky submission game, and he's finished twice via some kind of a leg lock. A lot of Morgan's knockout wins come by way of ground and pound, so clearly the last pirate is dangerous wherever the fight goes. And Morgan has definitely fought, beaten, and lost to the better brand of regional scene competition, and it really isn't even close, as Manolo has fought a very low level of competition. Now, Zecchini is going to be 1 inch taller, and he's going to be 1 year younger than Morgan Charriere. Manolo is a dangerous finisher who favors the knockout. He's got an 82% career finish rate and 11 pro wins, 1 of them by submission, 8 of them by knockout. And Manolo is 8 wins and 1 loss to the knockout in his career. And he's got a knack of finding that big shot on the feet, whether it's with a punch, a kick, an elbow, or a knee. Whatever he throws, he does so with bad intentions, and he's definitely looking to finish fights with big shots. So I think Morgan is the better fighter everywhere, especially on the ground. That's where the hole is in Manolo's game, and I think Morgan can exploit it. We've seen Manny Zecchini get subbed on the Italian regional scene via triangle, and Morgan is 3 wins and 1 loss to the submission in his career. Morgan has been in there with much higher level grapplers than Manolo, and I think he finds a way to finish this fight with either ground and pound or a submission in the second round after Zecchini wears down a bit. We got to remember here that Morgan Charriere has 28 fights, but he's less than 28 years old. This guy is very experienced. And when you go to his Tapology profile, you will see that his last 4 losses are either by split decision or majority decision. So even when he does lose fights, they're often very close fights that could go either way. This guy really doesn't have a lot of holes in his game. He can find multiple paths to victory. He's very experienced. He's very well-rounded. He's very well-tested here. And when you look at Zecchini's competition, it's just not even close to being the same level as Charriere. So, yeah, definitely got to pick Charriere to get the job done here. And I think that he's not only going to win, but win by finish here by getting him out of there in the second round via submission. Right. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We've got Colby Saul is in the room saying, "What's up, Uncle Weezy? Appreciate you hanging out, Colby." There are 55 of you hanging out live right now with me. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that subscribe if you haven't already. Please consider joining the Patreon so that you can get access to these stats that you see here on my program. And we are going to talk about the next fight, which is going to be Volkan Oezdemir going up against Bogdan Guskov. We've got Volkan as a minus 180 favorite. We got Guskov as a plus 155 underdog, and the fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 400 for this fight. So the bookies say this fight finishes inside the distance 8 out of 10 times. So they are pretty confident that somebody's going to get served here. And I'm pretty confident as well that I know which one of these two guys is going to get served. So let's talk about it. First, let's start talking about Volkan Oezdemir. Volkan has the experience advantage. He's got 9 more pro fights, 125 more minutes in the pro cage, and over 5 more years as a professional fighter. He also has the UFC experience advantage with 12 more fights and over 125 more minutes in the octagon. As Guskov is making his UFC debut on short notice here, he's filling in for Volkan Oezdemir's original opponent, which was Azamat Murzakanov. Volkan is better everywhere that this fight goes. On the feet, he has power in both hands, and he's stood with some of the best fighters in the game. He's got a positive 0.19 distance striking differential, above average accuracy at 43.6%, above average defense at 58.4%. In the grappling, Oezdemir is extremely efficient. He's only attempted 14 takedowns, but Oezdemir's opponents have attempted 65 against him. This means Volkan has attempted 17.7% of the takedowns in his fights, but he's finding a way to win over 44% of the control time positions that he's been in. This is because Volkan has shown excellent 80% takedown defense and a very good get-up game when he does get taken down. Guskov is a powerful striker, but that's about it. Skill-wise, Volkan hasn't covered everywhere. And Volkan has fought, beaten, and lost to the much better brand of UFC competition, and it isn't even close. Now, for Guskov, he's 3 years younger, and he's listed as 1 inch taller than Volkan Oezdemir. And Bogdan is a proven finisher. He's got 100% of his 14 pro wins coming inside the distance. He's got 2 submissions, and he's got 12 knockouts. But I see nothing at all on tape that is leading me to believe that he has a chance to win this fight. And I'm referring to Bogdan Guskov. Volkan is still only 33 years old, and the level of competition he's been in there against is at least 10 notches ahead of the fat guys that Guskov has been beating up on the regional scene. And if Oezdemir doesn't feel like standing with Bogdan, there isn't any evidence to suggest that he can stop Volkan from taking him down. I think Volkan sleeps this fraud in the first and easily cashes this ticket. And yes, for those of you who are asking, Uncle Weezy, do you get fraud vibes from Bogdan Guskov? The answer is yes. I definitely get fraud vibes from this guy. The one good fighter he's been in there against recently slept him in the very first round, and it was a much smaller guy. And then now he's taken a massive step up in competition. You see some guys that Guskov's in there against, and you see him land a jab, and these guys fall to their knees and cover up. I mean, they're not real fighters that he's beating. And now he's got a guy in Oezdemir whose last 5 opponents have been Rakic, Yuri Prochaska, Magomed Ankalaev, Paul Craig, and Nikita Krylov. And I mean, frankly, any of those guys would be minus 1,000 against Bogdan Guskov. So I'm a little bit worried that Volkan Oezdemir is only minus 180 here. It actually makes no sense to me. There's nothing on tape from Guskov that leads me to believe that he can win this fight. I mean, we've seen Oezdemir drop twice in 12 UFC fights. I mean, the guys that have been dropping him, let's see who they were. Yuri Prochaska and Magomed Ankalaev. One guy who probably should have been champion in Ankalaev when he beat Blachowicz, and then another guy who actually was champion in Yuri Prochaska. So I just see Volkan landing a big shot early here and knocking this fool out in the first, easily cashing this ticket. I'm looking for, Oezdemir inside the distance. Oezdemir to dominate this fight. So that is going to be the pick. It is going to be Volkan Oezdemir by first round knockout. And there we go. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. We got Dad's File saying Charriere to Biz. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going with Charriere in this spot, man. Gustav, you bet the Gustav guy. Yeah, he does kind of look like Anthony Smith there, doesn't he, man? For sure. Yeah. Anthony Smith's evil twin. Yeah, that fight is still on as far as I know. I mean, I don't know. At this point, it might be safe to assume that all the fights are off and that Cyril Gane has had all the energy drained from him by a vampire in Spivac, and then it wound up once Spivac got all the energy from Gane in the pre-fight, warm-ups and all that, he might just start stealing the energy from everybody else on the card, and then the card just winds up falling apart like a Chinese motorcycle here. But yeah, you guys, sounds like a not too subtle hint, Volkan the ass shaving. We will see, my friend. We will see, but he would not be a bad choice this week. That is for sure. All right. So then let's talk about this next fight, which is going to be Benoit Saint-Denis at minus 155 going up against Thiago Moises at plus 135. Fight doesn't go to decision here, juiced up at minus 165. Let's get these stats up, and let's first start talking about Benoit Saint-Denis, who's almost a year younger. He's going to be 2 inches taller and have a 3-inch reach advantage here over Thiago Moises. In addition, he's the southpaw in this southpaw versus orthodox matchup. Benoit Saint-Denis has got a 100% finish rate in his career. 9 wins by submission, 2 wins by knockout, while you see Moises with like a 65% finish rate. So Benoit, the more opportunistic finisher. And then we see Benoit Saint-Denis doing so much better of a job than Thiago Moises in just getting his takedowns and winning minutes on the ground. We see a 44% control rate for Benoit Saint-Denis while only allowing 8% control time. Almost 85% of the control time positions of his fights are being won with the grappling. And Benoit shows good pressure on the feet, gets in on double leg takedowns, gets on top, maintains height, passes guard, and then works to the back of his opponent and then tries to finish with the rear naked choke. And there's a bunch of different submissions and ways that this guy can win, but Benoit Saint-Denis absolutely does his best work in the grappling exchanges. Now, Moises also young like Benoit Saint-Denis, but a lot more experienced. Over 180 more minutes of professional cage time, 10 more fights at the 10 more fights as a pro, 7 more years as a pro fighter, 6 more fights at the UFC level, and about 80 more minutes in the UFC octagon. Moises has fought the much higher level guys here. As we see, he's got a 1.5 ratio overall compared to 1.38 for Benoit Saint-Denis. But Benoit Saint-Denis' opponents only have 4.75 average UFC fights, while for Moises, it's 12. And then you can see here that when we look at the people that Thiago Moises is beating in the UFC, those 6 wins are over guys with a combined record of 34 wins and 39 losses, while Benoit Saint-Denis' 3 UFC wins come over 3 guys with a combined record of 1 win and 5 losses in the UFC. So those wins over Nicholas Stolze, Gabriel Miranda, and then Ismail Bonfim really don't rate nearly as highly as Thiago Moises' wins over veteran guys that have 12 UFC fights on average. So there are really some much better wins on the Thiago Moises side where he's beating, veterans with a lot more UFC fights. Thiago Moises, though, even though we know Benoit Saint-Denis does his best work in the grappling, Thiago Moises is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion at the black belt level. So even though Benoit Saint-Denis does his best work in the grappling, there's really not a lot of evidence to suggest that he's going to be able to go out there and do to a grappler the caliber of Thiago Moises what he did to guys like Stolze and Miranda and Bonfim, who are mostly boxers. Miranda is a submission guy, but he's just a very, very low-level regional scene guy, not somebody that's been fighting guys like Moises has, like Joel Alvarez, Alexander Hernandez, Islam Makhachev. He's been in there with much better competition, has Moises. So, and then Moises is going to have the better striking here, too. I mean, Benoit Saint-Denis does pressure a lot on the feet, and his metrics look pretty decent compared to Moises, but we've seen Moises win 3-round striking matches with good strikers like Alexander Hernandez. We've never seen Benoit Saint-Denis win minutes on the feet against anybody at any level of mixed martial arts. So I like Moises here. Moises is more experienced. He's also young, just like Benoit Saint-Denis. Moises has fought the much better level of competition. And where Benoit Saint-Denis does his best work, which is with the wrestling and the grappling, he's going to be going up against a guy in Moises who's one of the top grapplers to ever do it and is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion at the black belt level. And while this fight is on the feet, Moises will be the one doing the better work because, first of all, Benoit Saint-Denis with only a 46% distance striking defense is not going to hold up well on the long term against a guy in Moises who's a lot harder to find at 62%. So, yeah, I'm going to be going with Thiago Moises. I don't think he's going to be able to get a submission here, but I do see this fight finishing, going the distance, and Thiago Moises winning by decision here. So I'm going to pick Thiago Moises to win the minutes in this fight, stop the takedowns of Benoit Saint-Denis, outpoint him on the feet, and then potentially even get to some dominant positions in the grappling exchanges as well, and looking maybe for a rear naked choke. But yeah, Thiago Moises by decision is the pick for this fight. And we've got Remdog in here saying takedown should be available to Moises with Benoit fighting southpaw. Plus, he throws plenty of kicks to catch. Yes. Yeah. And frankly, just because Benoit Saint-Denis can get on top, it doesn't mean that he's not going to be fighting off a lot of submission attempts from Moises that he might be able to use to sweep and get on top or get to the back of Saint-Denis in his own right. So, yeah, the plus money on Thiago Moises this week, like I say, he's more experienced. He's fought the much better level of competition. And I think there's a lot of evidence to suggest that Moises is the better striker. And I think that it's absolutely debatable who the better grappler is here. And they're both young, and they're both on a little bit of a winning streak right now. So, yeah, man, plus money on Moises makes a lot more sense to me. And I think there's a lot more value on that side. Let's move to the next fight, which is the co-main event. Manon Fiorot at minus 171 going up against Thug Rose Namajunas plus 146. Fight doesn't go to decision for this fight, plus 150. So We get the stats up here on the screen, and let's first start talking about Manon Fiorot. She's going to be the bigger, stronger fighter here. She's listed at 2 inches taller than Thug Rose, and she's always been a flyweight, while Rose is making her flyweight debut here in her 17th professional fight. Manon is an elite striker, and her UFC metrics support that. Manon has a positive 3.52 distance striking differential, landing 6.84 distance strikes per minute and only absorbing 3.32. Every single distance striking metric Manon shows is above average for the division, but her distance striking differential, offensive output at 16.83 distance strike attempts per minute, and distance striking defense at 73.7% are elite statistics. This one here at 16.83, this one here at 73%, and then 6.84 distance strikes landed per minute. All really good numbers. And we can see here that 83% of her fights do take place at distance striking range. So only 17% is spent in control time positions for Manon Fiorot, and she's winning over 86% of those control time positions as well. So Manon can win minutes wherever the fight goes while being extremely defensively responsible. Manon has a traditional martial artist stance on the feet. She's sideways. She's got a wide stance. She's bouncing up and down on the balls of her feet. She's got karate and Muay Thai backgrounds, and it shows in the way that she fights. She's got a very powerful straight left hand that she starts in and out of range with, and she does a fantastic job of maintaining range with her karate push and front kick attack that she employs at distance. It's extremely difficult to win minutes at range against Manon. Best job we saw was by Chookagian when she won the first off of Manon, but then lost the second and the third. Manon is a tough puzzle to solve at distance striking range. We will see what Thug Rose's coaches have drawn up for her on Saturday. And Manon has done an excellent job of mixing in her wrestling to win minutes in the UFC. She has 7 takedowns on 14 attempts, averaging 1.69 takedowns per 15 minutes with 83.33% takedown defense. She outcontrols her opponents 14.5% to 2.2%, winning over 86% of the control time positions she's been in. Manon also shows a great fight IQ, knowing when getting a takedown can steal a close round. See round 3 of the Chookagian fight, where she got a late takedown in the third to seal that round and the fight. Not only can Manon mix in the grappling to win minutes, she also shows the IQ, knowing when to use it at the most opportune times. And that's a fantastic quality for a fighter to have at the highest level when the margins of victory are becoming even more narrow. And even though Rose has 8 more UFC fights than Manon, and she was a former champion of the strawweight division, it's actually Manon who has the better strength to schedule ratio metric overall and in her wins. These ladies fought at different weight classes, but Manon's level of competition so far in the UFC outside of the Leonardo fight really has been top-notch. That being said, I still have to say Rose has the strength to schedule advantage overall. And then Rose Namajunas, Thug Rose is more than 2 years younger than Manon. Thug Rose has the overall and the UFC experience advantages with 5 more pro fights, over 60 more minutes of pro cage time, and over 5 more years as a professional. In addition, Thug Rose has 8 more UFC fights and almost 120 more minutes of octagon time and a ton of championship experience. And Rose is the former strawweight champion. She's beaten Weili Zhang twice. She's beaten Joanna Jędrzejczyk twice. She's 1-1 versus Jessica Andrade, and she's 0-2 versus Carla Esparza. Rose has been there and done that. Now she doesn't want to cut to 115 pounds anymore, so she moves up to flyweight. We've seen others make the move up successfully, so why not Thug Rose? Rose is a well-rounded fighter with very few exploitable holes in her game. You don't get to be UFC champ by not being well-rounded and tough, so Manon needs to expect all she can handle for this fight. Excuse me. Now, Rose flashes power. She has 4 UFC knockdowns and 2 UFC wins by way of knockout. the most memorable being the head kick knockout of Weili Zhang to win the strawweight belt for the second time. Rose's power metrics are better than Manon's at distance thus far in the UFC. 0.8% for Rose, 0.28% for Manon. So perhaps Rose can find ways to win moments at range in this fight. Rose has 5 wins and 1 loss to the submission in her career, while Manon is 0 wins and 0 losses. So it's safe to say that Rose is the more opportunistic and dangerous submission grappler in this matchup. And Rose has shown excellent grappling efficiency in the UFC. Even though Rose has attempted 33 takedowns and Rose's opponents have attempted 40, Rose has more takedowns than her opponents do at 19-16, and she wins almost 71% of the control time positions her fights have been in. Rose has the strength to schedule advantage. She's fought the much more experienced competition, 15.62 total fights to 8.8 total fights for Manon. And Thug Rose has been scheduled for 5 rounds several times, while Manon has never been scheduled for 5 rounds in the UFC. So this is going to be a tough row to hoe for Thug Rose. She is smaller, she's less physically strong, and she's at a volume, accuracy, and defensive deficit to Manon at distance striking range. Rose probably does have the submission grappling advantage, but Fiyero has excellent takedown defense and has been controlled just over 2% of her UFC cage time. So that might not be an available option for Rose to win minutes or moments in this matchup. In addition to that, Rose is on a 1 year and 4 month layoff, and this is her flyweight debut. And she's fighting Manon Fiyero in France. All that being said, Rose doesn't have to cut as much weight. She's fresh. She's a former champion with sharp, powerful counter striking, and she's fast and elusive on the feet in her own right. So this certainly is no easy matchup for Manon, but I do see Manon getting the fight she wants. A distance striking battle in front of a friendly crowd. I like Manon to do more, land more, be more defensively responsible and durable, and outwork Rose over 3 rounds and win a decision here. So the pick is going to be the beast, Manon Fiyero, to win by decision here. And I do have a bet, 1 unit on Manon Fiyero to win by decision at plus 125 on Bet Online Sportsbook. And that brings us to the main event, you guys. One more fight to break down. Ciryl Gane at minus 163 is a favorite to a 700-year-old Transylvanian vampire known as Sergey Spivac in this particular time period. Spivac is plus 143. The fight doesn't go to decision here, sitting at minus 350 for this fight. So let's first start talking, or let's bring up the stats here and first start talking about Ciryl Gane and his advantages in this spot. Ciryl is going to be 1 inch taller, and he's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage over Sergey Spivac. And he's got the UFC experience advantage with 67 more minutes in the UFC octagon compared to Sergey. Ciryl has elite athleticism, and he uses that gift to keep fights standing at distance striking range where he does his best work. He's got a positive 2.8 distance striking differential with 58% accuracy and 63.33% striking defense. Every metric Ciryl has striking-wise is way above average for the division, except for his volume, which is right about average. Gane's fights stay standing about 85% of his 147 minutes in the octagon. So not only does Ciryl do his best work standing, but he's been successful keeping fights that way for the most part. And Gane has fought, beaten, and lost to the superior brand of UFC competition. Now, Sergey Spivac is almost 5 years younger than Ciryl. I mean, that's what he's listed as. I mean, he's probably about 667 years older than Ciryl, but I mean, we don't really have the 700-year-old birth certificate, do we? So we're going to go with the UFC stats metric of January 24th, 1995 as Spivac's birthday here, which makes him 5 years younger on paper. The kid is definitely still improving. You know, a lot of people forget that this kid is only listed at 28 years old. for the heavyweight division, that's very, very young. And we've already seen this guy in the UFC cage 10 different times already. So he's very well tested already at this point in his young career, is Sergey Spivac. And he's got 6 more professional fights than Ciryl Gane. And he's been doing MMA for almost 4 more years than Gane has. Spivac made his pro MMA debut at the age of 19, while for Ciryl Gane, it was 28 when he made his, he was 28 years old when he made his UFC or professional MMA debut. And Sergey has the better finish rates overall. 88% finish rate for Sergey Spivac compared to 72% for Ciryl Gane. And in the UFC, it's 72% for Spivac and it's 63% for Gane. Spivac's an equal opportunity finisher as he's got 7 wins by knockout and 7 wins by submission. And Spivac is by far the better wrestler and grappler. Gane's ground game is laughable, and Spivac is above average in every grappling category. He's getting 5.05 takedowns per 15 minutes. He gets his takedowns at a 66% clip, and he outcontrols his opponents 41% to 16%, winning over 72% of the control time positions his fights have been in. That's significant because 57% of Sergey's fights take place in control time positions. So I hate saying that fights come down to striker versus grappler, but that's exactly what's happening here. There are massive skill gaps between these two guys, both on the feet, where it's in favor of Gane, and on the ground, where it's in favor of Spivac. I love Gane's speed, his diversity of weapons, his footwork, athleticism, and of course, his striking. If this fight stays standing, he'll eventually catch Spivac with a big shot and knock him out like Aspinall and Walt Harris did. The problem is that Gane can't wrestle at all. He's faced literally one guy in the UFC who could wrestle his way out of a paper bag, and John Jones pushed his shit in and made him tap to a ghillie that didn't even look locked in. I can't picture Gane not getting put on his ass every time Spivac gets to the body lock, and I don't think Gane has flashy enough power while moving back to keep Spivac off of him. There is a massive hole in Gane's grappling defense that Sergey will have no problem exploiting. I can't believe he's plus money versus Gane. I have 2 units on the Sergey Spivac money line at plus 165, and I'm picking Nosferatu to get this to win this fight by second round submission, everybody. So that gets us to the main event, where we've got that vampire right there, the polar bear, Sergey Spivac, and I've got him winning by submission in round number 2. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. Go Flamingo, ring a ding ding with the $5 donation saying, can you bring a hammer and stake into the ring? If not, Gane might be in a bit of trouble. Yeah, dude, I totally agree. They don't let you do that anymore, Go Flamingo. Back in the old days, when you'd see like Dan Severn and Oleg Taktarov in there, yeah, you saw people bringing foreign objects into the cage all the time. A hammer, some sandpaper, maybe you pull something out of the trunks, and you kind of stick it in the eye of your opponent while Keith Peterson is drunk over, like, curled up in the corner trying to recuperate from a long night the night before. But they don't let you do that anymore, man. So Gane's going to have to rely on that footwork and that distance management, and he's going to have to keep that dude right there, that mouth, off of his neck, because that is where the energy gets drained from. So, yeah, I think he might be in a little bit of trouble here. We got Sean V saying, Weezy 2024, what's up? We got Golden Octagon saying, oi, Weezy, the thumbnail of this is the best. I'm glad you like it, man. Once again, my guy Eli from the Kiwi, from New Zealand, his kids hooked that up for me, and it's awesome. Mike, I suck. No, you don't suck, dude. I got you. My guy Tone Miggins saying, let's go, Weezy. What's up, Tone? I'm with you, Weezy. Spivac all day. Yeah, I'm right there, man. Spivac's going to get the job done, I think. The UFC is setting up Spivac just like they set up Tabura against Aspinall. I mean, the UFC doesn't, they don't get to set guys up. It's still up to Ciryl Gane to go out there and win a fight. And, I just don't see him being able to stop takedowns from this guy. This guy's got way too big of a grappling hole in his skill set, and it was never exploited. Even Francis Ngannou, who has no wrestling, who's basically got a judo background, was able to win minutes on the ground against Cyril. So somebody like Spivac, who that's the way he wins minutes anyway. I just think that this is a brutal stylistic matchup. And I disagree. I mean, I think this guy Gane, he doesn't really train that much anymore. I mean, I could potentially see this guy being on his way out, because if they just gave him grapplers for his next 3 fights, he'd be 0-3. So I think if Cyril Gane was in the UFC's future plans in the heavyweight division, there's no chance in hell that they would have given him a Sergey Spivac fight. Gane is exposed. Yeah, he is, man. He really got exposed against Jones and against Ngannou. And, you know, like I say, John Jones, the only opponent in the UFC for Cyril Gane that could literally wrestle at all. And you saw what happened. I mean, it's not like Spivac can't do what Gane did or what Jones did there. There was nothing to that. He got a takedown. He kept head height. And then Gane gave up his neck. I mean, like, it didn't even look locked in, that guillotine. So, yeah, it's gonna be a short night, I think. Seriously, don't understand the line. It should be flipped. Yeah, I mean, but people really think that, you know, Cyril Gane can stop takedowns, and if that's what they think, I think that they're going to be very sorely mistaken when he actually goes in there against somebody that can actually wrestle in Spivac. When you watch Spivac, he can shoot for double legs, but he can get inside trips. He can get whizzer kicks. He can go belly to belly. He can cage wrestle, and he can catch kicks too. He was doing that against Tuivasa, catching Tuivasa's kicks and using that to take him down. So we might even see Gane not be able to kick as much as usual for fear of getting those kicks caught and being put on his ass. And when he gets put on his ass by Sergey Spivac, I don't think Spivac is going to let him back up. So, yeah, I agree with you there, Gogo Flamingo. But we got 2 more orders of business, and then I will let you guys out of here. First thing is going to be the Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking Pick of the Week. Have to give you a plus money spot that my guy Bootsy watching up above us, and also our guy Pogo up there watching above us from the Rainbow Bridge, telling us what dog is going to win. And Bootsy's been 0 for 2. But I'd like to say it's Bootsy's fault, but it's actually me who's making the pick, so I can't really hang it on Bootsy, but I'd like to hang it on anybody but me. But this week's Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking Pick of the Week is going to be a vampire. Sergey Spivac, the money line, plus 143. I mean, I got it at plus 165, but at plus 143, it's still big time plus money here. And I think that this guy makes it look easy and exploits that massive hole that has been exposed in Cyril Gane's wrestling and grappling defense, which we never saw because nobody ever tried to take him down really until the Francis Ngannou fight. And then once we knew that the guy couldn't wrestle, it made it easy for John Jones to go out there and finish this guy in less than 2 minutes. So Sergey Spivac is this week's Bootsy Collins dog pick of the week, a nice fat plus money number that we can cash on here. And then that leaves us with the last order of business, you guys. Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Now, last week we gave you a great one. Waldo Cortez Acosta went out there and hit Lucas Bresky so hard that Bresky turned around and just started trying to walk home. And boy, oh boy, did Waldo send him there or not. I mean, just blasted him in the back of the head a couple of times, sent him face down into the canvas, shaved ass, cashed the finish only ticket there, cashed the money line ticket there. Well, didn't quite cash it because it was dependent on the second leg hitting, but you guys know what we're talking about. Who's it going to be this week? Huh? What do you guys think? 10 hours ago, says Smokestack, about the line flipping. Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised, yeah, that line hasn't flipped in that. But, you know, Gane, if this fight stays standing, if Cyril Gane is unable to get the takedowns, if Gane has shored up that hole in his game, yeah, then he's going to probably look a lot better than minus 170 here, because Sergey Spivac is not going to win minutes on the feet against a striker the quality of Cyril Gane, but he doesn't really have to, in my opinion. So this week's Uncle Weezy ass shaving of the week is going to be somebody that I think is at a skill disadvantage or advantage against his short notice opponent, it's going to be Volkan Oezdemir. This guy doesn't have a whole lot of time, and I think that he's not going to show a whole lot of time to Bogdan Guskov. Like I said, power in both hands, much higher level of competition. He's got a grappling route should he want to take it. He's got the strength of schedule advantage. He's got the experience advantage. He's even going to probably be the bigger guy here. And, you know, he's not taking the fight on short notice. He was planning for Azamat Murzakanov. This is a much, much easier matchup, a much more one-dimensional opponent, a power puncher who really doesn't have that much durability. So I really see Volkan just going out there, finding the chin and getting this guy out of there real early. Bogdan Guskov's striking defense leaves a lot to be desired, and that is a bad quality to have against somebody that hits as hard as Volkan Oezdemir. Thank all of you for hanging out tonight on this complete mess of a UFC Paris card. Let's try to make the most of it. The only bets that I have thus far on this card are the Sergey Spivac money line at plus 165 for 2 units, and Manon Fiorot to win by decision at plus 125 for 1 unit. But I'm also looking to add Rhys McKee to win by decision for a half unit at plus 350 or better. And I'll also be looking to maybe play around with a couple of other lines as well. But as of right now, I'm keeping this small. There's a lot of debutantes on this card. There's been a lot of shifting of the lines and matchups. So I'm going to kind of see what else presents itself as the week goes on and as we see some of these props start to drop on other sites. But the Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking pick of the week, Sergey Spivac. Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week is Oezdemir to shave the ass of Bogdan Guskov. Thank you guys for hanging out. Appreciate the donations. Appreciate the chatter in the chat here. My guy Eli, thank you so much for that baller. You gotta love it, man. The Gane versus Spivac thumbnail. All the credit goes to Eli. Thank you for hooking this up, man. Daz Files saying thanks, Weezy in chat. Best of luck. You guys, let's do it. Let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Paris. Have a great time watching the fights. Tomorrow, I'll be back on Pub Sports Radio, 8 o'clock Central Time for the DFS show with my guy Brady, with Gordo and with Monk. And then I'll be right back here, 10 o'clock Central Time with some Ask Weezy, and then look for some Prize Picks content potentially on Thursday as I begin to warm up this new probability show and the new probability Prize Picks template that will allow us to exploit some of these other less played prop markets like significant strikes, fantasy score, and takedowns. Thank you guys for watching. Let's make some money on UFC Paris. Have a great night, and I will see you guys tomorrow.